Hi everyone, my name's Peyton, and today we're going to take a look at New Balance's new 1080 version 15. And today I am joined with our Rackets and Runners Run Club coach, Lara. She has also tried out the 1080, so we're going to give you our thoughts about this new update. Coach Lara, would you like to give the audience kind of your background and how you got to be with Rackets and Runners?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, Peyton. I've been with Rackets and Runners leading the run club for 3 years, but I have a really extensive background in running. I've been running for 35 years. I ran track and cross country and university. I've done road races, trail races, everything from 5K up to 50K ultras. So I love to impart all of my wisdom and my love of running with the run club.
Yeah, so I thought this would be a good showcase of how an elite runner feels in the shoe versus a little bit more of an average runner like me. Me personally, this is actually the first time I've ever run in a 1080. And I was wondering what your background with the 1080 was.
I've run in a few versions of the 1080, and I must say this v15 is my favorite. In the past, I felt it was really soft. I've run in the 880 before, and that was a little bit of a firmer ride, and so I gravitated towards that shoe. But this one, I must say, I tested it out on Saturday, and I wore it all day today at work, and I found it a lot more responsive and a little bit less cushiony.
So that's a good foreshadowing of what the updates of this shoe were compared to the version 14. Before we dive in, if you'd like to stay up to date with our shoe reviews, and we have a lot planned in the next coming months, please give us a follow and subscribe. And if you want to check these shoes out, you can come visit us in store or visit us at racketsandrunners.ca. So going into more of the technical updates of this shoe, the 1080 had a huge cushion update for the version 15 compared to the older versions. And in my opinion, it was a long overdue update. First and foremost, the older 1080s used New Balance's Fresh Foam X cushioning formula, which was a much softer, more squishy feeling cushioning. In the version 15, they completely replaced the Fresh Foam X with their new Infineon foam. This is one of the many shoes in the running world that has shifted to a supercritical foam from more of the classic PIBA EVA cushioning foams. Essentially what this means is that in this shoe, instead of taking a big piece of foam and compressing it down into the midsole of the shoe, they took a small piece of foam and then essentially under pressure aerated it and blew it up into the midsole of the shoe. What this does is that it lets the shoe have a much lighter cushioning system, and B, it's a lot more responsive and durable compared to some of the older cushioning technologies, especially the Fresh Foam X. I don't know if you noticed while you were running in it, but it makes it a much lighter shoe as well as more responsive.
No, absolutely. I felt it was a lot lighter when I was running with it, and you can feel it right in the shoe.
The women's size 7 of the version 14 of the 1080 was 8.3 ounces, while this version 15 size 7 is 7.3 ounces. So the new cushioning formula, at least in the women's size 7, dropped the weight of the shoe by an ounce entirely, and that's taking into account the next update, which is that they redid the upper of the shoe. I haven't quite seen this type of upper in a shoe before. It's this beautiful, almost knit looking upper, and although to me it feels like quite more of a substantial upper, again, the shoe is an ounce lighter than the older model, so it didn't make the shoe much heavier.
Previous models used to be quite elasticated in the top, and so I felt for me in my wider forefoot that wasn't comfortable at all.
Yeah.
So this is, I like a firmer knit that just sits there and it doesn't compress your foot.
I like what you say, it's not as elasticy, it's more substantial. For me personally, the cushioning is a very great update. I purposely didn't wear the older version because I found it to be too plush, and I really don't care for that feel when I run. If you've seen some of my other videos, you might know that I like a little bit more of even if it's a high stack height shoe, I like it to being a bit more bouncy versus squishy, and I found that this one definitely had a great upgrade into that more responsive territory.
Yeah, no, I agree, absolutely. When you're running, it doesn't feel like you lose all of your energy into the ground. So that energy transfer is just really quicker and more responsive, and it can propel you off the ground faster.
It's impressive that it feels much more responsive because they also, in addition to upgrading the cushioning system itself, they added 2 millimeters of stack height. So it still has a 6 millimeter drop from heel to toe, but it now has 2 extra millimeters of cushioning in both the front and the back of the shoe. Maintaining that 6 millimeter heel drop, the new stack height of this shoe is 34 millimeters in the front and 40 millimeters in the back. The initial sizing and fit of the shoe, when I first put the shoe on, I felt that it fit pretty true to size. I went with my usual size that I get in all of my running shoes, where I have, you know, about a half to a full thumbs width of room at the front. Like you said, it didn't have that elasticy feel the older version had. Because even though I didn't run in it, I've tried it on to see how it feels. It doesn't have that elasticy feel. It just has that kind of solid encasing feel around the upper of the shoe. And I felt that the upper, it hugged the top of the foot really nicely without compressing it. And it had a really nice hold in the heel when I put it on. So like for me, I went with a 7.5 standard width. That's the shoe when people ask me what my shoe size is, that's the size I give them. And so to me, the shoe was very true to size.
Yeah, I agree as well too. I take a wide because I have a wider forefoot. And as soon as I put the shoe on, I'm always a little bit nervous, you know, even if I have a wide, how's it going to feel on my forefoot? Put it on and it was like, it just fit right in, nice and snug, but not too snug. It just felt comfortable right out of the gate. And the upper, I sometimes feel like something, if it's too rigid, it'll dig into my ankles and it irritates and rubs it, but it didn't do that at all either. I do like a heel locking technique on my lacing to bring my heel in a little bit snugger, and I did that, but there was no slippage anyway. Otherwise. And then today I wore it all day at work, just walking around, and my feet didn't feel uncomfortable at all.
So before we start talking about our experience of how it feels to actually run in the shoe, I want to give a quick little rundown of what this 1080 was built to do, especially since there's a similar shoe that by New Balance called the 880. So the 1080 was built to be that more cushioned, longer distance running shoe. So it's for people who are wanting to increase their mileage, like going for half or full marathons or ultra marathons, and like a little bit more cushioning than, say, at least in New Balances, than say the 880. And it is a neutral runner, so if you do need a little bit of stability, or you have your own over-the-counter insoles or orthotics, the insert of the shoe does come out, so you can put your own inserts in to give you a little bit more support, so you can also have the cushioning of shoes like these. My experience running with this shoe, off the bat, again, especially since I was comparing it to the version 13s and 14s that I've tried on and walked around in the store and didn't care for. When I put this on, my first impression was, like, even just from standing up after tying it, was, whoa, this is like, it's so much more responsive than the older ones, and it's bouncy. I'm a huge fan of a little bit more of like the responsive shoes. Like, I really like the Brooks Glycerin because it's a little bit more responsive for a premiumly cushioned running shoe. I really like the Asics Nova Blast, and I also, another one that I like by New Balance is I like their Rebel. Their Rebel is kind of like a higher cushioned tempo shoe. So that's kind of what I had in my head when I first put these on. And these are definitely not a tempo running shoe, but compared to what they used to be and some other more like plush premiumly cushioned running shoes, I was definitely impressed with how responsive this felt. And I run in it probably 5 or 6 times now for some normal long runs, and then some more like progressive faster long runs. And I really like them for especially like picking up those paces in some of those longer runs.
It could be a really good all-around shoe, you know?
Yeah.
So you could use it for your long runs, you can use it for your shorter runs, you can use it for some speed sessions. So if you did have one shoe, this could be your all-arounder.
Yeah.
And you could get away with that, I think.
I call those types of shoes workhorse shoes. So it's good, like if you are wanting to get into running or like running, but you don't want like 5 or 6 or as many shoes as I have. It's a really good option for, okay, I want a shoe that does it, that can do it all, that can take me from training to my faster paces to race day.
Yeah, I agree. When I first put it on as well too, I was skeptical because I'd been, you know, I test run in some other 1080s and felt it was really soft. Put this one on and it was firmer. I was like, oh, that's cool. It's a little bit more responsive, a little bit lighter, a little bit peppier, right?
Oh, peppy. Yeah. Peppy's the good word.
Yeah.
We do want to mention something because I have had customers come into the store and they were under the impression that even the older versions of, some of the older versions of the 1080s were high heel drop shoes, which I would say is around like 8 to 12 millimeter drops. This version, and at least the version 14, are actually like kind of lower heel drop shoes for a running shoe. So both the version 15 and the version 14 have 6 millimeter heel drops. And I know Lara has some experience with needing, tending to like a little bit of a higher heel drop.
Yeah, or just if you're making that transition to this shoe, I would recommend that you would wear the shoe, if you've been in a shoe that has a steeper drop, that you wear this shoe on a shorter run. and just transition, get used to it for quite a little while. You know, give yourself maybe a month of shorter runs in this shoe before you transition it into longer runs, just letting your body adapt to that differential. Otherwise, your calves and your Achilles might get a little bit irritated.
Another pro of this new cushioning system is, I would say, like, this is definitely not a stability shoe, but the fact that it has a firmer cushioning system makes the roll off while you're running, since it's not as squishy as the older versions. I felt more stable in this shoe compared to especially the version 13. My ankle felt better running in these shoes.
Definitely, it didn't feel that same. Sometimes a shoe can feel a little bit tippy, you know, and when they're, especially when they're stacked a little bit higher and you don't feel stable. And I didn't get that impression at all with this shoe either. It felt like it just helped guide me forward, but I didn't feel off balance.
So what holes do you think that this shoe fills in, like, your running shoe lineup? Like, what type of workouts would you use these for?
I do agree with you, and I feel like it's a good workhorse shoe. It could be your all-around shoe. If I had multiple shoes, though, I would say I'd probably use it for my longer runs, because it has that, you know, the cushioning to it, but still has responsiveness. I would use it for long runs where I have tempo finish in my long runs as well. I would use it for longer tempo runs. And it was a really comfortable walking shoe, you know, so a day-to-day shoe, you know, at the gym when I'm walking around, I'm working with my clients, I would definitely wear it as my day-to-day shoe. It was really comfortable. If somebody has, you know, the option for multiple shoes and you want something that was zippier and lighter, and well, it's light, but zippier and a little bit speedier for track workouts and for shorter cruise interval workouts, then you might want to go with something that's a little bit zippier. You could use this for racing. I would say probably not for short distance racing. I would probably use this for like a marathon or something a little bit longer. You could get away with it for the half marathon, but again, I think that something that's more like your Rebel or a plated shoe for a shorter distance race would be a little bit more appropriate for that.
I agree. I think for a marathon, the cushioning in these shoes is substantial enough that it's going to protect you all the way to the end of the race. For me, I'm running to finish and beat my own PRs. I'm not running to win the race. So for those of you who are running your first, or are running just to run, or running to beat your own PRs and stuff, this would be a phenomenal shoe. I would say half marathon and up. If you're wanting something zippier, the Rebel would be a good option. For those of you who want like what people typically think of a racing shoe, like those carbon plated shoes, New Balance's lineup, they have the Super Comp Trainer and the Fuel Cell Elite. Those are their carbon plated running shoes. The Elite is more of their racing focused one. Their Trainer is more of their training focused carbon plated shoe. But not everybody can wear carbon plated shoes, so this would be a really good option to fill that, so you can go those longer distances, because it provides the cushioning protection that those carbon plated shoes has, but doesn't have the harsh rigidity of that carbon plated shoe. For those of you who loved the older versions of the 1080s and might be a little thrown off by how much we're gushing about the new cushioning system, they still use the Fresh Foam X cushioning system in the 880, and they did increase the stack height in the 880. So if you did like the older 1080, the current 880 would be a good fit for you, because it does have that Fresh Foam X cushioning in it, and it is more plush than the older 880s.
And I think you get a good balance though with this one too. I don't think people would be too disappointed, because you have the extra stack height, so you still get that cushioning, but you get responsiveness. So I think it's a win-win.
And for those of you who know a lot about running shoes, maybe know a little bit too much, like I personally think I know a little bit too much about running shoes, some good comparisons to this shoe, or some shoes that are in the same category of shoe. This would be similar to your Asics Nimbus, your Brooks Glycerin. This would be similar to your Mizuno Wave Sky, your Saucony Triumph. All of those are going to be the more, what I would call, premiumly cushioned running shoes, which just means they have a higher stack height than kind of their more lower profile average stack height running shoes. So overall, the new update to the 1080 is that it's a little bit of a higher stack height and has a phenomenal new cushioning system that is super responsive and springy.
Yeah, no, it's a really great overall workhorse shoe that I think that a lot of runners could use, you know, for any of their runs, especially the longer runs, longer tempo runs, but a great all-around shoe.
Personally, I have a lot of running shoes, and I do notice that I do gravitate to only a couple out of them for for my true rotation of running shoes, and I am confident in saying that this one I will be using this one especially in my longer runs. It's super comfortable, and I was really pleased with it when I put it on.
Yeah, I agree. I'll be working this into my rotation. I have to get used to that 6 mil drop, so I'm going to start with it on my shorter runs and then build it up and then bring it into my long runs.
If you'd like to check these out, come visit us in store or take a look at racketsandrunners.ca. As well, if you're in the Vancouver area and you want to come check out our run club, it runs on Tuesdays and Saturdays, and you'll get to meet our wonderful coach Lara in person.
Yeah, we have an awesome run club, great community, lots of pace groups. We cater to all levels, and we're super friendly, very welcoming. Come join us.